Hi guys, Josh Lloyd here, ready to give you your NBA DraftKings first look for Friday's action. We've got 9 games on, so let's take a look at how these games hopefully are going to pan out. First game we look at the Chicago Bulls and the Orlando Magic. The Bulls here are favoured by 2, and the total is 221.5. Otto Porter is doubtful, while for Orlando we know that Aaron Gordon is out as well as Michael Carter-Williams. Big opportunity here for Nick Vucevic. 8,500 for Vuce is it's not a huge number. It's a very cheap number for a bloke that's giving us, 43 on average over the last 5. Really love him in this matchup against Daniel Gafford. Denzel the Hammer Valentine's at 3,400. With Porter out, Valentine got into the rotation, and he put up some good numbers last time. He's at least worth a look. Dropped 30 fantasy points, 13 real-life points in only 19 minutes. Now, some of that is just an outsized usage with those 2 steals there, which isn't real, but at least a name to watch. Kobe White's at 6,000. I'm not really interested in that, and I think 6,200 for Evan Fournier is too high. I do like the fact that Levine is down at 8,400, though. Levine's probably more of a $9,000 guy. Now, to be fair to the pricing gurus there at DraftKings, he's averaging just 41 points in the last 5 and under 40 in his last 3. But his lowest score is 35, and I have faith that he gets back over 40. Cole Anthony's at 5,700. Anthony at 5,700, I think, is a solid enough floor play. And not much else I really love here. I think the 68 for Lauri Markkanen is probably too high, and they've really bumped Thad Young up to 6,200. Young's been putting up good numbers for sure. He's averaging 40 over the last 3, so I guess 6,200 wouldn't be the worst price that you could pay for Thad. I'm just not 100% convinced that he's going to continue to rack up the assists like he has been. Let's go on to the next game now. The New Orleans Pelicans, they're going to Indiana to take on the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers are 3-point favourites, and the total here is 226. Miles Turner was pretty disappointing last game, just 13 points on DraftKings for him there. That's not ideal, obviously. Not sure I want to use him at 6,300, to be perfectly honest. 8,600 for Domantas Sabonis looks great. He just gets fed a ton of usage. And I don't think the 8,000 for Malcolm Brogdon's particularly good. We've seen Billy Hernan-Gomez move into the backup center role for the Pelicans. Now, he only played limited minutes last game. Only, 19 of them, but still had 15 points. I wouldn't get too excited unless we do hear Steven Adams is out. Jeremy Lamb's a GPP player because if he's having a bad shooting night, Nate Bjorken will have no problem in benching him. Last game, he had 5 fantasy points. He went 0 of 5 from the field and played 17 minutes. The game before, 34. The game before, 29. The game before, 28. So some real value as a GPP guy, assuming that sort of nonsense doesn't happen. TJ McConnell's at 5,000. Really love his floor. He just gets assists and steals every game, and he's giving you 25 almost every night, while Lonzo Ball at 5,900 is also playing at a high level. Love Zion at 81. He's basically unguardable at this point, and he just gets whatever he wants, and he'll just get you 40 fantasy points, 40 DraftKings points pretty much every night that he's out there. So he looks to be a pretty strong option to me. This next game we take a look at the Milwaukee Bucks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Real blowout potential here, so I worry a little bit about guys like Yanni and Chris Middleton. Yanni is at 10-8, but again, the blowout risk is real. The Bucks are favoured by 10.5, and the total's 227.5. I'm not really worried too much about the Cavs minutes. I think Garland and Sexton will still play a lot. That is, if Colin Sexton plays. He's questionable with a neck issue. I like Garland at 58 quite a bit, especially so if Sexton is out. And if Sexton is out, then I'd look to someone like Chetty Osman to fill in there as well and become a decent option at 4,600. Larry Nance is out once more, so we're probably going to get Taurean Prince starting. We're also probably going to get Taurean Prince dropping under 20 DraftKings points, so I have no interest in him. Andre Drummond at 8,200. He was atrocious in their last game, and therefore his minutes went way down. 13 points, 21 DraftKings points, 22 minutes. His usage has been absolutely sky high for no real reason. I don't know how he's going to fare against Brook Lopez in this Bucks defense, but I wouldn't want to be putting my money on it. Drew Holiday's at 77, maybe. Minimum salary Lamar Stevens. Lamar Stevens played well last game. How interested in Lamar Stevens do I want to get? He's literally minimum salary. He had 19 points last game. I'm not sure I trust that fully, but it's worth looking at. And this is the perfect opportunity for Punch Bob. Bobby Portis, 5,400. He had just a casual 44 points last game. Real blowout master is Portis, so there is some opportunity here for him. I wouldn't want to use Jarrett Allen, Dante DiVincenzo, or even Chris Middleton. Even though Middleton is down at 7,800, the blowout risk probably sours that somewhat for me. The Toronto Raptors, they're taking on the Brooklyn Nets. Really interested to see what Nick Nurse does with Chris Boucher in this one. Boucher has fallen all the way down to 4,500. Now, I can't tell you that Jeff Green's a big dominating hulking centre that Nurse needs to avoid the Boucher matchup with. Jordan's a decently sized player, but he's not particularly good or particularly big or strong. I think this is a great opportunity to get Boucher back in there. Now, you could be burnt horribly, but I do like this opportunity. Fred VanVleet at 7,900. Yes, he won't be as good as last game, but I think he can get 40 really easily. 9.6 for Durant looks pretty good. He's giving us around 45 a night. Irving's at 91, also giving us around 45 a night. And Harden at 10.6. He's giving us more than that. These guys are working together well. Harden's averaging 66 over the last 3 games. I think you can use all of them. I'd probably prefer Irving over the other two, just save a bit of cash, but I think they're all in play. Siakam at 76 doesn't work for me particularly well, nor does Kyle Lowry at 78. And then you got Joe Harris, who's too high at 5,800, and Norm Powell, who'll get another start most likely with OG Anunoby out, and he's averaging 41 points over the last 3. Does really thrive in a starting role, and we know that any game that the Nets is involved in tends to be pretty defense optional. So there's going to be some pretty big opportunities, I would think, for some large scores to be on offer here for us. Next game, Minnesota Timberwolves, Oklahoma City Thunder. No spread or total here. Karl Anthony Towns is out. Juancho Hernan-Gomez is questionable, as is D'Angelo Russell, while Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is out for the Thunder, as is George Hill. So Hamidou Diallo, 5,200. I like it. One of the best plays of the day, I think, with his floor value for minutes and even at production. I like that. Justin Jackson, or the other guy that's out, sorry, is Lou Dort. Now, Justin Jackson's one of the worst fantasy players in the NBA. He's actually horrendous. But with Dort out, with Gilgeous-Alexander out, and with Hill out, he's going to start and he's going to play big minutes. Now, he played big minutes last game, 30 of them, in fact. He had 13 DraftKings points. That's shithouse. It's terrible. I don't completely hate throwing him into a GP because he will occasionally have these random games where he scores 25 points and goes 80% from the field. That does happen occasionally. It doesn't happen often, but it happens occasionally, enough to at least have him in your GP people. 6,900 for D'Angelo Russell. That price is coming down because he's been terrible. If we hear that he's playing, I like it. And I like Darius Bazley at 5,700, who's going to be getting a lot of shots. Now, they may not go in, but we saw him play pretty well last game. Malik Beasley at 64 is a good floor cash option, while Anthony Edwards at 55 looks pretty good to me as well. You got Teo Maledon at $5,000. Absolutely love it. Love the floor. Even last game, he only shot like 1 of 6. He had 6 steals and still put up 29 fantasy points. He should get you that 25 points, I'd say, relatively comfortably. I think it's a great option to use Teo Maledon here. The next game we look at, the Washington Wizards. They're taking on the Miami Heat. They won last time they played each other. Russell Westbrook will be back in this one. Jim Butler's at 8,300. His lowest score in his last 5 is 45 points. That's good value. Kelly Olynyk is trending upwards a little bit. I wouldn't be interested in using him, while 9,200 for Bam doesn't appear to be the best play out there. Westbrook's at 9,000, and he is, despite some of his horrendous actual contributions to winning basketball, he is averaging 55 DraftKings points. 50, 73, 41 the last 3 games. That's pretty good. Didn't play the last game against Miami. With him returning, though, it reduces the value of guys like Denny Avdia. 9,500 for Brad Beal. Looks pretty good for cash with some tournament upside, while Tyler Hero at 6.5 is too high. I don't want Rui Hachimura at 54, and Dunk Robinson at 5,000 is also probably, for me, a little bit too high. We might see Kendrick Nunn back in the rotation, but I don't think the minutes for him will be high enough to have any sort of real impact. Next game, we take a look at the Utah Jazz and the Charlotte Hornets. No spread or total out for this one. The Jazz are on a back-to-back, but Rudy Gobert is at 6,400. There's a very, very good price for Gobert. I like that a lot against this Hornets team. We're going to be getting Terry Rozier back. I assume he goes back into the starting lineup, but there's still some uncertainty about Rozier, Ball, and Graham and how that's all going to look. 5,900 for Rozier is all right. Probably more tournaments. Bogdanovic at 58. He's in a little bit of form at the moment, Boyan. Another big game against the Hawks. Don't mind using him here while he's shooting as well as he is. Don Mitchell's at 7,700. A little bit high, but not too bad. While Gordon Hayward at 75. I'd much prefer Hayward than Mitchell at very similar price tags. 7,100 for LaMelo Ball, while Rozier's return is going to have an element of doubt creeping into my mind. Because I know that Mallow, if he gets 30 minutes, he'll beat this number, like without any problems. But do we get Borrego playing him 24 minutes? Or does he play 31 minutes? And that's the big question. I do like Miles Bridges at 54, who'll likely get another start for Paul Washington Jr., so he looks to be a pretty good option. Not interested really in Mike Conley or Joe Ingles, particularly in this one either. The next one we take a look at, we've got the Phoenix Suns. They are hosting the Detroit Pistons. Wayne Ellington is questionable for the Pistons, while Derrick Rose isn't on the injury report. There's no campaign for the Suns. There's no Dario Saric for the Suns. And there's also unlikely to be a Jay Crowder. DeAndre Ayton's at 7,100. And for all the criticism he's been getting, and rightfully so, he's still producing at a decent enough DFS level, averaging 35 points over his last 5. I think the matchup's all right for Ayton, so I'm not against it. Jeremy Grant's at 7,000. I love that price tag for Grant. Really looks good to me. He dropped 45 last game. While Griffin at 52, it does tease you, doesn't it? You look at it and go, Blake Griffin, man, this is Blake Griffin, 5,200. Like, he's been dreadful the majority of the season, but there is at least some GPP value there. Don't really like Devin Booker at 75, and I hate Chris Paul at 79, but I think Mason Plumlee at 55 has some appeal here to us as he gets the vast majority of the center minutes. Dylan Wright at 56 with Rose back, I'm always a little bit skeptical. And then 51 for Josh Jackson. I think that might be the one we go for. Jackson dropped 38 last game. If his minutes trend up and those touches get back to where they were in that last game, then he'll beat that number. There is some risk associated with it, of course. Next up is the Boston Celtics and the LA Clippers. Last game of the day, no Marcus Smart, but Kemba Walker will return. Jaylen Brown's popped up on the injury report as questionable, while Peyton Pritchard has been upgraded to questionable. That's the word I'm looking for. I was going to call him Pritchable. The Clippers are 5-point favourites and the total is 221. Kemba's at 6,500, hard pass. Paul George at 8,700. I'm in on that for Georgie. He's looking great this year. He dropped 54 the last time out. Jalen's at 76. I'd probably fade Jalen anyway, especially now with the knee problem. And if he is out, then we look at Jason Tatum at 8,900 as being probably the guy we want to look at. Kawhi's at 88. That looks super sexy to me. Leonard is just a 45-point guy nearly every night. And at 88, it seems really underpriced. Reggie Jackson's been sliding. I wouldn't want to put too much faith in him. Lou Williams, Tristan Thompson, they aren't really guys for me. That'll do it for me today. Looking at those games, the 9 games for Friday in the NBA. Don't forget to hit that little bell down below. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe. Leave a comment down below as well. You can find me on Twitter at redrock_Beeble, and my Instagram is Locked On Fantasy Basketball, and here on YouTube I am Josh Lloyd Fantasy Basketball, which you can find the link to in the description and the title, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.